Welcome. Thank you all for joining us today for the Track 2 installment of our first Noyce PI peer webinar series. My name is Drew Scammell, my pronouns are he, they, and I'm a program associate with the Inclusive STEM Ecosystems for Equity and Diversity, or IC program at the American Association for the Advancement of Science. This new series, offered in collaboration by AAAS and the NSF Noyce program, centers on developing and implementing grants for the 4 Noyce tracks. Presenters are Noyce PIs who have led multiple grants to prepare and retain STEM teachers in urban and rural high-need schools and have shared research about their work. Presenters will describe their work on a Noyce grant, general and specific issues that can arise, strategies that brought success, and other advice for Noyce project leaders. As mentioned, today's session focuses on Track 2, the Teacher Fellowships track. Before I formally introduce our wonderful speakers and jump into the webinar, I have a few housekeeping notes I'd like to share with you all. This presentation is being recorded, and the recording along with the slide deck will be available in the coming weeks on our website at nsfnoyce.org. You'll also receive an email with a link to the recording and slides when it's available. And additionally, we have closed captioning for this workshop available by Zoom. You can download and view the full transcript by clicking the CC button at the bottom of your screen. And to discuss Track 2 today, we're honored to be joined by Drs. Natalie King and Elsa Villa. Dr. Natalie King is an associate professor of science education at Georgia State University. Her current Noyce Award is Developing STEM Professionals as Educators and Teacher Leaders. She was a plenary speaker at the 2023 Noyce Summit and is the first science educator to receive the NSF Alan T. Waterman Award that recognizes an outstanding young researcher in any field of science or engineering. And Dr. Elsa Villa is a research professor and the director of the Center for Education Research and Policy Studies at the University of Texas, El Paso. Her current Noyce Award is Paso del Norte, Texas Computer Science Teaching Fellows. And the way that today is going to be structured is that each presenter will go through their slides, talk about their project, go through their presentation. Each will have about 20 minutes, and then we'll move into a Q&A. Please feel free to, as the speakers are presenting, feel free to put your questions or comments in the chat. We will save that for the Q&A at the end. And at the Q&A, we will address those, and feel free to come off mute if you want to state your question verbally, whatever you're comfortable with. And the 2 speakers will be walking through that once we get to the Q&A portion. And with that, that is all I have to yap about. So thank you all for joining us today. And without further ado, I'll hand over to our fantastic speakers, starting with Dr. King. I'll pull my slides down and we'll get into it.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Dr. Natalie King, and thank you so much, Drew, for the wonderful introduction. I'll share a little bit today about DSPEDALs, what we call it, Developing STEM Professionals as Educators and Teacher Leaders. Our project was funded in 2019, and we are nearing the end of the project period now. Of course, I first want to share some gratitude and also acknowledgements to the National Science Foundation and to AAAS for the invitation and for funding this project, to Georgia State University and the College of Education and Human Development, to co-PI Christopher Jett, Dr. Shonda Morris-Robbins, and our district partners, and to our former PI, which is Dr. Christine Thomas, who was a mentor for me as well in introducing me to Noyce. We have our director of field experiences, as well as our project manager, Andrea Zienge and Tatiana Hardrick, as well as our current and past doctoral students who support the project. And of course, our 26 DSPEDAL teaching fellows, which we'll share a little bit about them today. So as you can see, it takes a community in order to make a successful Noyce project. So what I'm hoping that we will do is share some strategies for developing the PI team, as well and proposal preparation, goals and outcomes to highlight major goals and outcomes of the Funded Noyce project. And hopefully we can share a little bit of insights into how to provide practical insights on recruitment and preparation, induction, leadership development for Noyce teaching fellows. I'll share about it from the perspective of our project. It is a way to do Noyce. It's not the way, but we'll share lessons learned along this journey. So here are our teaching fellows. As you can see, they're very diverse in terms of race, ethnicity, even their backgrounds. We have some who have PhDs in chemistry, and we have those who came straight out of Georgia Tech from an undergraduate degree in physics and or mathematics, who joined our project. And so our goal was to figure out who was committed to serving the community, who was committed to being here, but also to have a heart for children and education. And so how did we get to this point where we were funded pre-COVID, and yet we still have our teaching fellows with us to date? So what I'll say is that there have to be important conversations that happen before even putting together a proposal. For us, we sat and we met with two school districts, large school districts here in the Metro Atlanta area, Fulton County Schools and Rockdale County Public Schools. And our goal was to have a diverse and collaborative PI team that had expertise in STEM and education as well as community engagement. Um, we collaborated with potential partners and school districts so that we can identify what these shared pain points were. That was important because for the districts to really be invested in the project, they had to share with us what is it that they want to be able to solve. What pain points can our project, can we leverage this project to be able to support the children in our local communities? Then from there, we considered and we developed our research practice partnership. You can do your community of practice. And then we had a clearly defined problem of practice. And it was really to build science and mathematics within the school districts. And they really wanted to see how they can get more Black males to teach science and math. And so we made sure that even our recruitment processes and the things that we went about and how we went about structuring the program was to be able to address those pain points. And then we aligned the proposal with NSF's priorities and demonstrated long-term impact potential. With that, here are two major project goals. One, of course, we wanted to recruit and prepare STEM professionals who would be willing to commit to teaching and remain as highly effective teachers in high-need middle and high schools. And the second was to engage STEM professionals in robust and innovative professional learning experiences for their development as teachers and then as teacher leaders. So with that, we had clear recruitment strategies. One, we hosted information sessions on our campus. We partnered with College of Arts and Sciences and to see if some of the undergraduates who were nearing to graduation were interested in pursuing a master's degree in education and teaching science and mathematics. We also collaborated with our local universities. So it was very important that we sent this information out to Clark Atlanta University and to Morehouse and to Spelman and some of the other local institutions of higher education. From there, we also collaborated with nonprofits. Our primary nonprofit was 100 Black Men of South Metro initially, which is the local chapter, but then their national chapter is housed here in Atlanta as well. So we had an opportunity to continue collaborations with 100 Black Men of America. And then we begin to leverage the existing partnerships within school districts, with principals. We went to some principal meetings that were held by the district to share with the community-based organizations with whom they already had relationships with, including faith-based institutions. And we just tried to figure out how to tap into people who were already connected to the place. And then from there, we were able to successfully recruit our two cohorts of 26 fellows. We also shared success stories and provided a clear roadmap for obtaining the MAT degree as well as for certification so that they knew that this was possible for them and that Georgia State, we had a success record of doing it. So this is what our flyer looked like. We just asked, do you have a STEM degree? Are you interested in teaching math or science? Then consider, this special project. We would pay 100% of your tuition. You would have a salary from the district after you're done with the supplement on top of your salary. And that was $12,000 stipend each year that they will receive for 5 years. And so we basically tried to highlight what those selling points were in a quick and easy way on our flyer. The biggest thing to remember is that in order to get the teaching fellows, you have to get off campus and into the community. It does take a lot of legwork to be able to find people who would be a good match for this. But you can begin to leverage connections with partners in order to get the reach that you need. In terms of our selection process, we created what we called like an intent to apply form. It essentially was our way of vetting some people just to see if they were going to be a match, because some people were interested, but they didn't necessarily have a STEM degree, or they were interested, but our initial partnering sites at the time were not going to be the best match for them. And so or they didn't meet the GPA requirements or other things. And so it was, instead of them going through this entire process, we were able to vet them, make contact with them, answer any questions that they would need, and then they can move forward. We also had an interview process. And so they were able to interview with Georgia State University faculty across math and science education, as well as district personnel from both of our partnering districts. They came and they interviewed. And so they would come to campus. They would probably have an interview schedule. If they were interested in Fulton, then they would have an interview with a math ed faculty, for example, and Fulton. If they were interested in both counties, then they would interview with each of us. And then from there, we were able to see and collectively determine, would this be a good fit? It would be okay if they felt like, hey, this person would be a good fit for the program, but not necessarily for our district. Then if we thought that they would be fine to complete the MAT degree program, we would admit them. They just wouldn't be a Noyce teaching fellow. And so we had to both agree that they would be a great fit, one, for our program, two, to be able to be placed in those districts. And that's how we awarded our fellowships. That was what we learned the second time around. And because of that, we have not had our attrition with any of our cohort two as well. We also had interview profiles that we developed to make sure that they would be a fit for the program and that they would be committed to actually serving in the districts. And even if they continued teaching outside of the districts, that would be fine too. But what we were looking for was their commitment to teach and their commitment to serve. And then we also conducted interviews collaboratively to evaluate them and the alignment with our project goals. And so here's a picture that we were able to find from, I think, back in 2019. And you can see that we were all in, district partners, faculty, to be able to conduct the interviews, to meet them, and to see who should be extended the fellowship. Now, there was a little bit of uncomfortability, with thinking about, oh my God, 5 years, I have to commit to this. What does that mean? And so we tried to take the fear out of that, outlining not just the program expectations, but also the supports that would be in place to ensure their success. But then also making sure that to let them know that it is our expectation that they hopefully will complete the full 4 years, get your degree the first year, teach within these next 4 years, because we're not necessarily trying to just prepare them for 4 years. We want them to stay in education, right? And so our goal is to continue building them up and so they can find a home within STEM education. We also got our principals involved. So every year, we provide a letter to the principals. Sometimes the principals change. Sometimes some of our fellows switch schools. So we want to make sure that every year they know exactly what our program is and what they're signed up for, and how they can support the fellow that's at their school. We also make sure that they're aware of any professional development days that we have so that they are in support of our fellows, and it's not, and they can count as PD days. Those dates are selected during our leadership meetings with the district personnel. And so because we have two different districts and their professional learning days are different, we'll just negotiate. Maybe in the fall, it'll be professional learning day for one district, and then another date that's just a day that they would have to take off and find substitutes, and the same thing for the spring. And so again, all this is just communication and just being willing to collaborate and to negotiate to make these things work. In terms of teacher preparation, here at Georgia State, we emphasize equity and justice within our teacher preparation program, and we are equipping our teacher candidates and our fellows to excel in urban contexts. We also provide supports to make sure that they would meet the certification requirements. And when they initially started, we had EdTPA at that point, and we've since kind of moved away from EdTPA, but making sure that they can pass the GACE or whatever is needed for them to be able to get certified. And then we offer continuous mentoring and feedback throughout the program to ensure their success. Our signature experiences is what we call our professional development. And so initially, while they were either getting their MATs or immediately afterwards, we were focusing on things such as like time management, making sure that they had in-class coaching support, a differentiated instruction, thinking about like pedagogical and instructional strategies for their classrooms, how they can develop classroom communities, as well as content development and instructional planning and design. That was our focus. While all of those are very, very, very important, we had to also listen to our teaching fellows because one, they didn't want to be on a university campus. They didn't want to be on a school campus. They just wanted something different. And two, they were burnt out. And so we had to figure out how can we organize high impact professional development and get them into the community settings. Just like we had to go in the communities to find them, we are now taking them back into the community so that they can be able to familiarize themselves with the resources that exist around the Metro Atlanta area. That was also our way of engaging industry partners who had STEM focused learning opportunities that could be available to them as teachers and or their students. And then again, we just collaborated with district partners to ensure that scheduling aligned with the teaching responsibilities of our fellows. And so this is a group picture here, but we learn in various community spaces. It could be Zoo Atlanta, it could be the Botanical Gardens. We even went to Black Rock, and they focused on financial literacy, which is now a part of our mathematics standards here. The aquarium, Fernbank Science Center, here's our group picture at the aquarium. And so just getting them out. And attendance is not necessarily an issue for us because they're excited about what it is that we have in store for them. Because every time they come, it's something different. And so I shared a little bit about this, but it was important for us to pivot to focus on self-care. We would not have the retention rate that we have if we did not pivot. And so what I would just encourage you, I'll share a little bit about what this looks like. And maybe even if you're putting together, considering putting together a proposal, that you can think about this on the front end because it is critical. So we acknowledge the challenges of teaching in high need school districts, and we also highlighted the need for balance and self-care practices for sustainability within the teaching profession. So Audre Lorde, she says, caring for myself is not self-indulgence, it is self-preservation. And that is an act of political warfare. And so as we think about what does it mean to preserve self and what does it mean to ensure that our teachers do not burn out, especially our excellent teachers, that they don't leave, how do we make sure that they are well and that they are happy to be here and can stay? So as we think about self-care, teachers are experiencing burnout and stress that's impacting their mental well-being. And self-care, as we define, is just the daily process of being aware of and attending to one's basic psychological and emotional needs. And we know that as teachers and being in the classroom, it is so hard. Sometimes it'll be the full day before we can go to the restroom or just grab a bite to eat. That's just the reality of teaching. And so how do we make sure that they know how to care for themselves, but also establish a community of folks around them who will care for them? So we ended up starting this by partnering with Restore More, and they taught our fellows how to build capacity with restorative practices, anti-racism, teacher wellness, and social emotional learning. And so they started to do some workshops with some of our teaching fellows. And then our teaching fellows began to take a lot of that on and continue that even until now. They're sharing about like their self-care goals. Every year they'll create new goals. They'll hold each other accountable in order to meet those goals. And here's one of our teaching fellows who stated, I started making it a priority for my health. So I changed my diet and started doing more exercising. So this past year, I've lost almost 30 pounds. I'm starting to feel better and I'm just making it a priority now. I can't do anything in the classroom unless my health is good. And this is so critical. Like for this fellow, he decided to focus on his physical health. Some of the other ones may focus on mental or emotional health. It was really up to them what they felt their priority area was. But just having that as part of our program made a world of difference. We also make sure that we celebrate them. Every time we get together, we celebrate birthdays, we celebrate when they've gotten a promotion, that when they received an award, the celebrations for those who have babies, life changes, we celebrate everything. So we add a personal element to our signature experiences, and it just provides that warm team atmosphere. These are two of our fellows who were selected as Teacher of the Year that we were able to highlight as well. And then the final part of Noyce Track 2 is thinking about that transition into leadership. And so there are varied leadership trajectories for our teaching fellows. Everyone doesn't want to be a principal. We get it, right? They don't necessarily run a building. Some people actually want to remain in the classroom as teachers, but how can we prepare you to lead from within? How can we prepare you to be a leader in your building, even though you're staying in your classroom? Some of them are now department chairs, instructional coaches. One of our teaching fellows is now the science director for one of our partnering school districts, which is insane, but we are preparing them for whatever leadership pathway they hope to be able to aspire to be, to attain. And even one of our teaching fellows started her own nonprofit organization called Culturally Relevant Science and has made um, lessons available that are culturally relevant for science teachers that is now being used across the nation. And so whatever it is that drives them to be here, we try to nurture that. We have several of them who've come back to do their EDDs or their PhDs. They're now back in school, and we're supportive of that as well. And so leadership development looks different for each of the fellows. And so just have that flexibility for them to be a leader in their own right. And then also having space for them to engage in conferences. So this is a photo of them at the Southeast Noyce Conference, but we encourage our fellows to attend Noyce conferences as well as other conferences within our disciplinary areas. They've engaged in action research during the program and after the program, and so they can present some of that whenever they go out within their professional organizations. And so we want them to continue being reflective practitioners. We also provided some classroom grants that they could apply to within the project. And so we set aside funds so that if there are things that they want to do within their classrooms, that we can help to support that. So we just have some examples of some of the projects to the side that we funded for our fellows. And so it gives them opportunity to, one, learn how to write grants. And once they've written for this internal grant, then they feel more comfortable to write for NEA or other projects. We could share examples of successful projects funded by the program. And then it also encourages innovation and resourceful teaching strategies. Now with noise projects, a lot of times it's a lot of work. And so it's like, well, how are you able to do research if you have, a track 1 or a track 2? And so what we found to be helpful was that we involved doctoral students in the process and in the work. So they were able to learn what it meant to support teachers, but also it built our capacity to engage in research. And we have 2 dissertations that were derived from this Noyce project. And so they're able to disseminate further through this work. Something else that has been helpful in terms of reporting, we have a lot of reporting that needs to be done with Noyce, but we do our own internal reports. And these reports, as you can see, and you can scan to have a look if you'd like, are more like forward facing to the public so that the school districts can see some of the things that's happening with our fellows. The community can learn a little bit about what's happening with our fellows. We can share it in through our college and universities. But it gives them like an idea of some of the things that we've been able to accomplish each year. And so that's a different way to think about how you want to be able to report some of this. Yes, you might be able to share at conferences. You will have to report annually through research.gov, but then you can also find unique ways that you can share with the larger public. And so I'll close by this. Here's my email address if you would like to contact me. I'm happy to answer questions too once we open it up for Q&A. But we had an opportunity to share about our self-care for early career STEM teachers through the AAAS Arise blog. And so I've put that QR code here if you'd like to access that to be able to read more in depth in terms of some of the things that we were able to do and accomplish with our Noyce teaching fellows. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. King. And now I'll hand it over to our second extraordinary speaker, Dr. Elsa Villa.
Hello, everyone. I'm Elsa Villa with the University of Texas at El Paso. And I am so happy to be here and share what we've done in this space. And thank you, Natalie, for that amazing presentation and the work that you do. I congratulate you and your team on that. So we are the Paso del Norte Noyce Computer Science Teaching Fellows Program. We were awarded in 2022, and our grant will end in 2028. So to share our goal, our goal is to increase the number of K-12 CS teachers who possess a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science degree, coupled with a graduate degree in education and CS teacher certifications. So we are moving in this space because computer science, as many of you know, is becoming more prominent across the disciplines. And so we are wanting to prepare our high school students and also to motivate them to pursue a degree in computer science or computer engineering or computer information systems. So we had 4 objectives. Our first objective was to recruit a minimum of 10 computer science BS degree holders. And our objective was to recruit 5 in our first year, and then 5 in our second year, and then to support them for the next 4 years after they attain their master's degree in education as they move into the classroom. Our second objective was to strengthen the collaboration among our partners. Our third objective was to retain a minimum of 8 teaching fellows who earn a master's degree, receive certification, and teach. And then finally, our fourth objective was to conduct a research investigation to understand the programmatic impact. So what is our context? Well, we wanted to know, like, why computer science? And we found that computer and information technology is the fastest growing occupation. But within that occupation, only 5% identify as Hispanic. There's been a recent boom in undergraduate enrollment. In fact, at UTEP, which is the University of Texas at El Paso, we've practically tripled undergraduate enrollment over the last 5 years. But in spite of that, and that is not a phenomenon just at our university, that's across the country, but it's not enough to meet the demand for more computer and information technology specialists. And on top of that, there's a shortage of K-12 computer science teachers, which is critical, especially in high minority, high poverty schools, such as those in our region. So a little bit about our university. We are a majority minority Hispanic serving institution. We are located in El Paso, Texas. And El Paso is located on the border with Mexico. We are a predominantly Hispanic community with 90% or more Hispanics. Our demographics of our university mirror the community. We have 1,000 CS undergraduates, and we have 160 degree awards between in the academic year 2019 to 2020. So with that pool, and that was one of the things we put in our proposal, was that we had an adequate pool of students to draw from. And with a goal of only getting at least 10, we felt very confident that we could recruit those students. So our community, we are the city of El Paso, and we are located in the Paso del Norte region of Texas. And that's far west Texas, where nearly 3/4 of our households identify Spanish as a primary language, and 23% of our families live below the poverty level, compared to 30% nationally. So we have 3 collaborators. We have CS for All, which is a national nonprofit organization, is our partner institution, our partner organization rather, and they support pre-college computer science education, and they hold an annual summit. This was important as a partner because it closely aligned with what we were trying to accomplish and what we are trying to accomplish in this project. And the annual summit is something that we proposed that our CS teaching fellows would attend each year. Our district partner is El Paso Independent School District, It's a high need school district, and it's the largest in El Paso County, serving nearly 60,000 students. We have a number of school districts in our community. We have about 9. And then the last one is the Hopper Dean Center of Excellence, which is an endowed center in the colleges of education and engineering as co-partners, and they focus on K-12 computer science education. So we received an endowment to establish this center. The endowment specified that the center should be located in the College of Education, and it should have its partner as the Department of Computer Science. So I was the director of that center, and in anticipation of that center coming into our institution is when I applied for this Noyce Track 2 Teaching Fellows Program. So what was the challenge? Well, our challenge was to recruit 5 teachers each year in the first 2 years. And despite the numerous info sessions with pizza, no one applied for over a year. We recruited to other institutions. We were so desperate, we recruited to Kane University, which is in New Jersey. And Kane University is a partner with the Computing Alliance of Hispanic Serving Institutions, which is why we applied there, because they have a significant Hispanic population. They are an HSI, and UTEP is the lead for the Computing Alliance of Hispanic Serving Institutions, or CASI, which is a national includes alliance, which is funded by NSF. And so it was, they expressed an interest in our program, so we went there. But we had a lot of people come to our info sessions. We had about 60 students, and we had about 5 who were very interested in coming to El Paso. But 3 months later, they decided not to come. And then we also went to New Mexico State University, which is located just up the interstate from our university. And they also had strong interest, but nobody applied. So it was, I was getting very nervous. I attended the Noyce Summit in 2023 and actually 2022, and expressed my concern with the program officer at the time. And she said, well, maybe you can get computer science minors and I'll be okay with that. And so she approved that. But again, that did not prove fruitful at all. So where are we now? Thus far, we have 9. And so we are almost reaching our goal. This photo right here was the first 3 that came in 2023. And they, that is their mentor on the far right. And we all went to the CS for All Summit. And it is at the CS for All Summit that they have professional development sessions. They get to meet other people who are in the computer science field, especially teachers. So it was a very inspiring conference for them. We then, at the beginning of 2024, we ended up with 3 teaching fellows in spring, and then added 2 more at the end of spring, and then 1 more this summer. So we're really excited about that. We had a keynote speaker from CS for All who came to our annual Hopper Dean Gala, and that is another event that all our teaching fellows attend. We also took them to the Great Minds in STEM conference, where we went with, this was a different grant with the Department of Education, and we were able to take 21 high school juniors and seniors, all of our teaching fellows, and we also were able to provide a workshop for CS faculty that some of our fellows attended as well. So that's been a lot of opportunities for professional development. So far we are at 100% retention. 2 of the fellows, which are the 2 brothers on the far left, they are already in their first year of teaching, and next year they'll be in the same high school. This is a high school that's intending to start an engineering computer science program, and so they'll both be teachers there. All our teaching fellows are in a residency program, and this is a program where the mentor, such as the one on the far right, who's Pete, and Pete is a mentor. He goes through training, And there also is site coordinators and other mechanisms to work with the teachers when they are in residency in their 2 semesters with a high school in the high schools. There are site coordinators that go and they evaluate how well they're doing when they are teaching and working with students. So we're really excited about that because it is a nationally recognized program. We also have our research being conducted. We have a PhD who is a clinical faculty. I'm sorry, she's a research associate in the College of Education, and she is conducting research on how well the students are going to be doing in their teaching, but also on why computer science students did not want to become a teacher. And as you probably know, they are more interested in going into industry rather than coming into our program. So these are some selected references that for the work that we've done in preparing our proposal. The 3rd and 4th reference are the 2 papers that our faculty member is she had a work in progress paper presented at the Frontiers in Conference this year, and it's understanding the production of computer science teachers in a predominant Hispanic community, computer science undergraduate students' perceptions of becoming a teacher. And then what we found in that particular study was that there is some interest, but they feel that they want to go out into industry before becoming a teacher. The second abstract has been accepted to the American Society for Engineering Education Conference that will be held later this year or in 2025. And it is a community of practice in action, preparing highly qualified K-12 computer science teachers in a predominant Hispanic community. So one of the things in our proposal was to work on creating a community of practice. And so we tried to bring our teaching fellows to regional Noyce summits. We took all 9 to the Noyce summit that was in Washington this year, and we allowed them an extra day for them to tour Washington. For some of them, it was their very first airplane ride, but for sure an exciting time for them to be in DC. We also send them to the CSTA state meetings. We plan to send them to Computer Science Teachers Association, CSTA, and they also have attended regional meetings as well. And so these are the ways in which we are providing professional development for our teachers. And with that, I think we are ready to move into a Q&A.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Villa. As mentioned, you can put questions in the chat. You can come off mute, share them that way. Both our speakers are here, so the floor is open.
Well, while we're waiting for some questions, I do want to say that at UTEP, we are working on 3 different pathways to computer science teaching. And when we look at the Noyce Summit, or I'm sorry, the Noyce Teaching Fellows program, we see that probably is the highest quality of teachers because they have their degrees in computer science. Our second pathway, we have a Department of Education grant where we are creating a new degree program, which is called the Bachelor of Arts in Computer Science, which will be coupled as a dual degree with a Master of Arts. A Bachelor of Science in Education. So they will be identical degree programs where they'll take sufficient hours in computer science and sufficient hours in education as undergraduates, get teacher certified, and then become teachers. So that program is close to being, approved and authorized. And so we will be launching that program next year. And then our third pathway is recruiting in-service teachers who are interested in becoming computer science certified. And that program is being supported. It was supported originally from funding from Microsoft, and now is being funded by a grant that University of Texas at Austin received from the state to increase the number of CS teachers in our state. So real excited about that. And I think now we have some questions from our attendees, and I'll turn that back over to you.
Well, the first question I see coming through is, with the minor in computer science rather than the major, how does that fit with the required CIP code for the major?
When you see the CIP code, you're talking about the zip code for the program, Deborah? Okay, I'm not sure I understand the question, Deborah, but we did get approval for a minor in CS. But if you're talking about the dual degree program, it is going to be a zip code for computer science.
And the next question I have here, which might be good for both of you, is what was the process for Noyce to adjust your budget when you did not recruit fellows as originally planned?
We just rolled the monies over. And so that's what we're planning to do. And probably we'll be getting a no-cost extension when we get close to the end of the project.
Yeah, it's a conversation with the program officers, because I believe that depending on your situation, their approach might be different. And so I think most times you are able to extend the project out a little bit and recruit additional cohorts.
When we have a program officer here, Jennifer Ellis, I see with a hand raised.
So I actually have a question, but not, and I'm not gonna. So, and thank you, AAAS, for getting great PIs to mentor, and kind of like not two ends of the spectrum, but who are very honest with what their experience has been. For the project that didn't have, you couldn't implement as you initially designed. How did you manage your 40%? Because that's typically the issue. You have the 60% in F1, and you weren't able to, provide scholarships. But what were you doing with the other 40%, keeping in mind that you most likely would have to ask for a no-cost extension?
Are you talking about the cost share?
So not the cost share. So when you have a Noyce budget, 60% of your funds are designated for the F1, which is your tuition and all up to the cost of attendance, as well as the salary supplement. All the rest of your budget is at 40%, right? And so all your admin fees, anything other than F1 is a part of your 40%. So typically what happens is people will have a lot of money left in F1, but they're drawing down on the other aspects of their budget as if they're hitting their metrics for participants. And so when they get to the no-cost extension year, there's no money to implement the grant. There's money to provide scholarships and salary supplements, but the other lines of the budget, there's no money there. So I didn't know if you were being mindful of that and not drawing down as you initially proposed because you weren't hitting your number of scholars, or if you had another plan on doing that. And then for the newer awards, thanks to the CHIPS and Science Act, cost sharing is not a thing, but we don't know what that will look like in the future. So you don't necessarily have to talk about the cost sharing, but just really, how are you managing your budget when you are technically behind in what you initially proposed?
Well, we do with the 40%. Those were we were doing some research, and we were setting everything up, and so we went ahead and paid salaries. But the salaries are, so that was one of the aspects that we did, and we one of the things that because we do have the endowed center, we use those funds to supplement the things we're doing with the Noyce program. But everything was approved. I think we are being very mindful of what we do spend, but we will have funds available at the end of the project when we get asked for the supplement, or rather the no cost extension. We have money in our endowed center, so that money is supporting the Noyce Fellows.
And I think there's some costs that are hard to kind of get away from in terms of if you have 5 fellows versus if you have 15 fellows for the cohort. Salaries are hard because people are still working, and they're working in different capacity because now it's like still trying to recruit while managing the ones that you have there. I think where we got creative was around maybe like some of the supplies and materials, and seeing if we can collaborate more with community-based organizations to offset cost. And so like if they housed us on their building, then we didn't have to pay for space or we tried to find ways that we could save money, understanding that we probably will need a no-cost extension to complete the program. And then we also wanted to figure out ways that we could save money too, to do some of the things that our fellows asked for, that we didn't necessarily think about on the front end. We did have to provide some support in terms of being able to, for 1 or 2 of them to be able to pass like the certification exam or other things that you don't necessarily think of on the front end that will impact the budget. And so wherever we could find partnerships or other ways to offset costs, that's what we did. And now we are able to do some of the things that we want to do, such as like the classroom grants and like pour back into our fellows as we are nearing the end of the project.
Awesome. Thank you both. And this question is specifically for Dr. King. Moving to the next one is, could you kindly share more fine details about recruiting from the community? Experiences with your
So we had conversations with our district partners, and we named like who are some of the main supporters within your districts as well as your community. So we didn't necessarily try to start from scratch. I think that's what happens sometimes, that you don't necessarily have a connection to places, and you give them a flyer, and the flyer will just stay on the, on the desk somewhere, collect dust until the date has passed and they throw it away. That's what happens in schools. It happens with, there's information everywhere. And so having trusted people within various organizations was very, very helpful for us. That meant we had to go to chapter meetings. That meant we had to go to, to spread the word. That meant we had to make ourselves available to be able to, spread this in some of the churches. But it couldn't necessarily be from someone from the inside. It was, we are connecting with someone who might have a vested interest, and then make ourselves available to answer questions for people who have expressed interest, which is where that intent to apply came in. And we were we got notified every time someone submitted, and we followed up with them immediately to make sure that if they were a fit, that we would figure out like, how do we begin to nurture that relationship so that we can get them in for an interview and then hopefully accepted for a fellowship. There were some people who also applied for the degree program who met the requirements that didn't know about the fellowship. And so we also made sure that we had communications with those who did admissions as well, so that we could ensure that if they came from other places and found out about our program, now that there's money available to support them if they're willing to be able to, teach at least for the next 4 years. And so that's one thing. And then also we have the BioBus program. So at Georgia State, and that's a mobile laboratory that they have that goes into various schools across the state. And they were basically informal educators. They were graduate students in biology and some of the other sciences. And then they would do this as like their GRA-ship. And so they've already had some sort of an interest in teaching. They've gained it in an informal way. And we were able to recruit some of our teaching fellows from that program as well. And so just understanding like this, who do the districts have partnerships with, who's doing this type of work in the community, being willing to go into those spaces, go into those meetings, present the work, and then having a contact person within these various organizations with which you can continue to communicate to see if there's any leads that you can begin to nurture over time.
Amazing, thank you. Dr. Villa, anything you'd like to add about community engagement, recruitment, or any thoughts that may have percolated from that?
Well, I think, now that we have teaching fellows in our program and they've been spreading the word, we really don't have any problems anymore. I mean, it's just, in fact, at a conference that we took, our fellows that I mentioned earlier, I was approached by a graduating senior who is interested in our program. So she graduates in a year. And so she'll be coming into our program, and she recently emailed me letting me know that she has another friend that's also planning to become a teacher. So we're really excited about that because the word is getting out. What I did not mention is that we do have 2 females in our program and 7 males. So that will bring more females into our program. So we'll be excited about that because we do want them to become role models. All our teaching fellows are Hispanic, and so that is also a big plus for us, and probably not a surprise given our university demographics in our community. So the teaching fellows that are now in the classroom are excited. They're super happy. We've got one teaching fellow who did receive his master's degree, but he got his certification late. He didn't take his certification early enough, and so he's on the market. So we've been connecting with school districts, and we're hoping he'll have a position soon.
Exciting, amazing, thank you. I see one more question in the chat, but people still feel free to post things there. Come off mute, raise your hand. This one is directed towards Dr. King, but both please feel free to chime in if you have any thoughts or relates to anything you'd like to share. What kinds of projects did you encourage your teaching fellows to submit classroom grant proposals for?
So we didn't necessarily encourage certain types of projects per se. It was more so getting them to freedom dream as teachers. If there are some things that you want to be able to address, like there are issues within your school or you're seeing a problem of practice within your classrooms, and you have a solution that you want to be able to try out, let's help you do it, right? And so the projects all look different. It could be from literacy within science. And for this one, it was because he had a lot of Spanish-speaking students within his classrooms, and he was trying to figure out ways that he can get them engaged and make sure that they can feel a part and leverage various technologies to ensure that language was not going to become a barrier. And so he put together the proposal, the rationale, and we were able to help fund that. For another one, it was looking at binders in mathematics. And it was about having the same organization for all of the students, ensuring that they had sections and like dividers that they could all use for their independent note-taking, to be able to have their homework and handouts. If they were absent, that they know exactly where to go to match their binders with the binder that she would have available there, so that it was a seamless process that her students would be able to perform better and they would be organized within math class. It would also looking at experiments. We shared about one of our fellows who created the nonprofit organization. Well, now she wanted to infuse support some of the teachers within her schools to be able to do some of these experiments, and purchased access to purchase some supplies. They're all standards aligned. And so she was able to purchase them, support the teachers within her building, so that the school really benefited from that one, because now teachers in biology and chemistry and physics were able to now have more experiments that they could do. We have some that we funded to do robotics, teaching students how to code using robots like Spheros. And so we were able to purchase that, and they did it as an after school program, but making that accessible to students. And so it was more so getting them to see, like, what is something that you want to be able to do? You see an issue or you see a problem of practice, and how can we help you to solve that? I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Seeing a lot of kind remarks in the chat, so that's very, very wonderful. Thank you all. Don't hold space for any more final questions, thoughts from the group. And for our speakers, if you have any parting words or thoughts, words of wisdom, things you'd like to share.
I would just like to say good luck to everyone who's applying for track 2.
Beautiful.
And also
Oh.
don't get discouraged, right? It's hard work, but if you're willing to listen, if you're willing to put in the work and work with the districts, work with the teaching fellows, listen to the teaching fellows, you can have a successful project. It's evolved over time, and it's evolved because of our willingness to listen and to pivot. So if you take nothing else away from the presentation, you can have the grandiose ideas that you put on paper, but then based on whoever you bring into the program as fellows, you might have to do something different. And so be willing to pivot.
This is Betty Callinger from AAAS. I know that there aren't as many people who submit track 2 proposals. Is there anything that the AAAS can do at our summit, even in our outreach to current and potential Noyce proposals, to encourage them to obviously we can share your lovely blog, Natalie, about self-care, but is there anything we can do to help?
I think sometimes people just need to see that it's possible. And I love that Dr. Villa shared a little bit more of like some of the road, the bumps that you hit in the road. We had many too. We literally had where they were revolting and said that they would leave education with everyone else during COVID, right? If we did not change. And it wasn't because we were doing anything bad. It was just that it was so much stress coming from all different areas. They were burnt out. They were asked to do so many different things. They just didn't need another thing to do. And they have these STEM degrees that they can go and make a lot more money with a lot less stress, right? And so if you keep all that in mind, and how do you keep them grounded? But I think for AAAS, it's more so just creating these types of opportunities where we can create space to be able to share stories, to be able to share lessons learned, and that we can support one another as we engage in this work. And also
Thank you.
maybe even at
Great.
the conferences where we can have more of our track 2 fellows to be able to share and to be featured. And I think that would help some of the PIs that would be in the room and potential PIs to see what the possibilities of track 2 might be as well.
Great. Elsa, do you have any advice for us?
No, I think Dr. King has done a great job of that.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Betty, for that question. And thank you both for the feedback. And if anyone on the call has thoughts to share, please feel free to, you can put them in the chat. You can email us at noyce@AAAS.org. Make sure everyone feels heard. But with that, I have my notes pulled up. We have a few more points I'd like to hit, and then we'll get everyone out of here for the rest of your Thursday. Go ahead and pull my screen back up. So I'd just like to thank our track 2 speakers, the rest of the AAAS Noyce team, and all of you who are able to join and participate today. This is our 3rd installment in our 2024 series. Our final entry will cover track 1, and it will occur next week on Tuesday, December 17, with Drs. Ann Cavallo, Steve Farenga, and Sharon Vestal. Information on that session can be found on nsfnoyce.org and is being added to the chat. We have a survey link, which we are posting in the chat and are sending via email. The survey should only take a few minutes, but this is our first time doing the PI peer series, so please let us know if you enjoyed it, what you'd like to see more of, if you like these more frequently, any type of feedback you would have, we would really appreciate it so we can keep building on this type of experience in the future. And a current opportunity I'd like to highlight is AAAS Arise is accepting block submissions. The Arise project seeks to provide resources, tools, and a community to foster resource and evidence-based innovation in STEM pre-service teacher education and leadership development programs. Through the Arise blog series, we have shared information about topics and strategies for preparing STEM teachers for the future, assessing efficacy in STEM teaching, and understanding effective ways to recruit, train, and retain a quality STEM teacher workforce. In 2025, the goals remain the same, but we seek to focus on particular communities such as rural, urban, and indigenous, promising practices from a range of institutions such as HBCUs, TCUs, HSIs, small liberal arts, and community colleges to reach the broad collection of Noyce projects and constituencies. And I just want to emphasize that truly anyone could be able to submit, but these are some projects that we would like to create space for and uplift. And as I said, we have a former author on the call with Dr. Natalie King. Definitely check out her blog. It is absolutely fantastic. If you'd like to submit your own work, check out AAAS-arise.org. Currently, submissions are due this upcoming Monday, December 16, but we anticipate pushing that back a little bit further. So there'll be some notices around that. And with that, that's all from my end. Until next time, as always, take care. Thank you all. Happy holiday season. If we don't see you before, have a great start to the new year.